Like, not knowing marketing is the worst, or not saying not knowing it, not pursuing it is the absolute worst thing that you could do as a music producer for yourself, your career. Like, if you're not into the marketing part, and if you think that shit's bullshit, or if you're like, I don't need to do that because my beats are hard, no. Your beats are 20% of what it takes to make it in this industry. Like, you guys realize that, right?
1, 2, yeah. Come on. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yes, sir, you are tuned in. This is for the SB1200, ASR 10s and NPC heroes. This is for the crate digging, loop getting, sound manipulators, the Fruity Loop reasoning machine innovators that pump the bass and frequently freak the kick in a stand till it slaps in your speakers. The sound providers that make sure the song is tight. Shout out to the producers, beats grinding live. Shout out to the producers, beats grinding live.
Welcome to the Beats Grinding Life podcast with your host Siren, a weekly interview podcast with inspiring music producers, where every week you will learn from a different music producer how to potentially take your music career to the next level.
Today's episode of Beats Grinding Life is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audio download and 30-day free trial at beatsbooks.com. Over 180,000 titles to choose from on your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Some recommended readings by past Beats Grinding Life guests like 48 Laws of Power, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, The Secret, Tools of Titans, and The Song Machine are all available with Audible. Once again, go to beatsbooks.com to get your free book. What's up, Beat Grinders? This is another episode of Beats Grinding Life. I'm your host, Siren Beats, and with us today we have Brennan Lunin. Brennan Lunin is a music producer from Connecticut that is known as a music marketing expert. He is the owner of Ecue Productions, a production company that has licensing placements with ESPN, Oxygen Network, MTV, and more. He is also the founder of Ecue Media, which specializes in marketing, advertising, and design. The Full Sail University graduate is also the new media specialist at North American Entertainment Group. He has produced major comedy tours for acts like Mike Epps, Cat Williams, and more. In his spare time, he enjoys giving back to the producer community by educating and advising through platforms like his music marketing podcast. Yo, Brennan Lunin, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, man. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Man, I appreciate you being up on the show, man. Like I was telling you earlier, someone of your expertise, man. I love having guys like you on here. I get to learn from you, man, pick your brain a little bit, and implement the things that you tell me and the Beat Grinders, man. So thank you for coming up on here.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Thank you for having me again.
For sure, man. Well, we always start the show, man, by you exposing yourself just a little bit, man. So I want you to tell us
nothing indecent, right?
And pause on that. So, but I want you to tell us something that we would never know about you.
So I guess start from the scratch. I was born overseas in Belarus, which is like the old Russian republic. Came here when I was about 10 years old. Mm-hmm. Both parents were symphony orchestra musicians, 30 plus years. Wow. My mother, father both teach kids. My dad teaches clarinet, saxophone. My mom teaches violin and piano. My dad's also a piano tuner, so I really didn't have a chance avoiding the music. They're professionals with like masters in music, so they forced me to play piano when I was a kid, and I was pretty damn good. I was like, I hate the term like prodigy, like peace to prodigy. Rest in peace to the big homie. But I was like performing with symphony orchestras, like doing solos and on the piano. I was kind of like not a big deal, but they were grooming me to be a big deal. It was like a school, like a music academy, you know what I mean? So it was like all really centered on the music and really just like drove that whole music number one home, where like language and math was like a couple hours out of the way, and then the rest was like music. So, I had a pretty like solid upbringing when it came to music. And then, when we immigrated to the United States, my mother wasn't, they were starting their life over. So they're basically having to like, work all the time. And I was just kind of left to my own devices, and, found my way into the production game to keep myself out of trouble, because I sure know how to get into some of that, so. And we started producing. Me and my buddy Brian started producing. We were like, I don't know, 16, 17 years old. One of our friends was like, you guys should make beats, because we were doing like Castlevania remix. He had a drum set.
Right.
Like I forgot what kind of board that he had. He had some kind of. It wasn't like, it was the first board that didn't have speakers that I've ever played with. You know what I mean?
Okay,
like there was
so
like a first
like a Casio
workstation
or anything like that.
Right, but it was like a workstation. It actually might have been a Casio, but it was like a professional. No speakers, built-in sounds, outputs, all that. And so we were doing Castlevania, like all these like Nintendo games, like all those cool soundtracks. Then one of my buddies was like, "Yo, you guys are good. You should make some beats." And we were like, So I went out and maxed out on my 18th birthday. I maxed out my Sam Ash. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Sam Ash. It's like a music store. It's like Guitar Center. And maxed it out. Bought a Motif 7. Just had that thing to I don't know, I'd say a year or two ago. I just sold it. Like it was with me through like the thick and thin.
That's crazy. I was just considering selling mine. I have a Motif 6 yesterday.
I regret it just because it's like my old friend.
Right.
Like I could have sat there and collected dust. Like it wasn't the case, so maybe it wasn't collecting dust per se, but and I just sold it. It was like, but then I was like, you know what? I don't really ever use it. It's just taking up space. Could have used the money, whatever. So, but that's kind of like, my whole musical background was really just kind of like, I don't know, it's in my blood. It's in my DNA. I didn't have a chance.
Sounds like you have one up on most producers, like myself that, started off when I was like, I don't even know 19, 20. So, man, I mean, I love music, but, I never really like played music. But I mean, you were born into music. That's
3 years old, man. She started making me play piano when I was like 3 years old. And it's funny because I was just posting this, it's this practice book that I like randomly, like, I forget how I even came. I think I found it and like I was going through my old books and I think I found it in there. And it's like this kind of like, like a like sheet music book, right? But like everything in it was just from most simple exercise where you start with the middle C and then you go, you work your fingers, you put your 5 fingers on, C, D, E, F, G, and then you just kind of like, you do these simple like back and forth, and it gets more advanced, and then you get into like arpeggios. And I was sharing it with people because I was like, for anybody who wants to learn how to play the piano, like that's the book, like that. It's Hannon's Virtuoso Pianist. And
nice. Okay.
Dude, it's like, if for any producer who doesn't know how to play piano, that's a setback. Like, not like, I'm not talking about go play a wedding or anything. I'm talking about like just knowing how to just do melodies, chords, arpeggios. Like you can't trust, the piano roll the whole time. Like you gotta have some type of like human connection with it. That's kind of what makes music what it is. And I feel like, people miss that. So
especially
that's the
if
book.
you get to the point to where you're in the studio with other artists, if you need to play like a certain note to direct a singer so that they know what note to sing on or something, and you don't know where G is on the piano or keyboard, you're fucked.
Right. It's your, like, here's the thing. Like, I've always been kind of raised to believe that you have a job, right? Like whatever that job is, I don't care if you're selling cars, if you're making beats, if you're doing whatever. Like you need to be prepared to do your job, right? And you could say whatever you want. You can make excuses, which I'm not a big fan of, and you could say whatever you want as in regards to, well, I don't play the piano, I don't really need to, like, no, but you do, like, and you don't have to play, like, you don't have to be proficient in it, but you need to be able to, and not necessarily even maybe piano. Maybe that's not your thing, but there's got to be an instrument that you have to know how to play that you could use to show other musicians what you want them to do.
Right.
Because you can't say, like, you can sing a melody, I guess, but it's not.
And it helps you speak the language a little more,
Right. It's just that, like, you need to have that skill set. It's kind of like, you don't have to. It's not going to make it or break it, but it's advised. It's advised that you do, because I mean, it makes you look more legitimate, I guess would be the right word to use.
I mean, there's a lot of producers that I consider my favorites or some of the best of all time that didn't really play instruments. I mean, I don't think DJ Premier plays any instruments, but
oh, dude, you just said the magic words. It's like number one.
Yeah.
Well, they're fighting. Him and Dre are number one to me, and especially when they did that song, I was like,
yeah, right.
when he was on that Dre album, like Dre's an idol, like minus like the Dre Barnes or whatever her name, D Barnes, like minus that whole era.
Right.
He's like an idol of mine, and probably the only person I would be, him and Premier would probably be the only people I'd be kind of like starstruck around, because I've met plenty of celebrities, and I've never met them too, and I'd probably be like, hi. I don't even want to tell you I make beats, because I don't even know what to say right now. Like I'd be like a schoolgirl when I met them too. But I don't care about celebrity generally speaking, but those guys, like,
yeah, man. Yeah, I mean that's like the holy grail. I mean, I always ask the question of who's up on your Mount Rushmore, and I took it off just so that we can ask you some other questions about music marketing. But
I like that question. That's a good question.
Okay, well,
Rushmore.
Who is on your Mount Rushmore? 4 producers.
I would say like Dre and Premier number 1 and 2, because they kind of crafted my whole sound. Like I lived in Cali. And I have that West Coast love, like I love West Coast. I love that wine, that like, the leads, like all the, because I have a Moog, so like I bought it because of that.
That's cool.
And I'm from Connecticut, so like that's East Coast. Like Dr. Dre like spoke to me more than like just about. I know you got your Large Professors and like LES, like all these dudes like that. Obviously made an impact, Molly Marr, but like Premier was like the dude. And then there's like, I would say, so number 1 is like Dre, Premier. Number 2 would be probably Just Blaze.
Dope.
Number 3 I would say would be Pharrell and what's his name, Chad Hugo, like for the clip,
Neptunes.
for Neptunes and Nerd, like all that stuff. And Timberland's got to be up there, because Timberland's Timberland. I mean, if there's like a top 5, I don't really put them in like a exact order. I know Dre.
Yeah, it's hard to do that.
Yeah, but it's like they're up there, and you got people that are like Kanye. Like people hate Kanye, but like I consider Kanye one of the greatest like of all time. Like I consider Kanye like whatever. He's crazy. Let the man be nuts. Like he loves Trump, whatever. But like, I mean, you can't
the
like
old Kanye for sure.
The old Kanye, give me the old Kanye. Right? The new Kanye, I'm like whatever. But still amazing, like incredible. But then there's like people like Jimmy Iovine, like people don't consider him a producer. Like how can you not? Like he did Tom Petty, and he did so many big names that you're like I always have the argument of production versus beat makers. If you're a producer versus a beat maker, like a producer could be a beat maker, but a beat maker isn't necessarily a producer.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So
I mean, you can transition into that, and it's going to take a lot of work. But like you were saying, one way to start that is probably by learning an instrument.
It's 2 different skill sets. Like it's being a producer, it really has nothing to do with the music, like except that you're gonna, like a producer produces a project. Like that's to me the definition of a music producer. He makes a project happen when there wasn't one. Right. So like, I mean, but then again, look, how many people that are considered top-notch music producers, right, who had session musicians come in and play everything, who had 100-piece orchestras to come in and play. So like that whole notion of like, you didn't make that whole beat, you're not original, or you're not like, I use loops all day. I use drum fills and drum loops all day. Why I care? I don't.
Right.
Because you know who doesn't? The fans. Like the people hearing the song. I could tell you right now, I've asked, they give a shit about how many loops are in there. They don't. They don't. Right. So what the hell? So who am I impressing? Producers? And how much money has a producer made you in the last year? Right. So like, what are we worried about when our like peers tell us like, oh, well, you're not like as dope as me because I create everything from scratch. Like, oh, okay. Like we've made rules now. Gotcha. Like I didn't think there was any. I thought we just had to make good music, but nobody said we all had to write our own stuff. Like I said, you could have session musicians come through and play guitar in your track. Now you didn't make that whole track. Are you original?
Exactly.
then.
Yeah,
right?
I think Quincy Jones spoke on that about session musicians coming in and playing for him, and he was like, I'll put it to you like this. If someone drops a puzzle on the ground and I tell someone else where to put all the pieces, and they put the pieces together, who put it together? The person directing or the person moving the pieces around? You know, it's kind of the same thing with production. You know, if you're directing the musicians in a certain way, you know, that person doing it is the producer of that song or that album. So
I mean, look at like I grew up in the symphony orchestra, right? Mm-hmm. Both my parents, my dad used to play he was, I believe, first clarinet in the Minsk Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra, right? Mm-hmm. My mother played, and it's funny, like, look at the path that I chose. My mother used to play for the TV and radio orchestra. Wow. So they were responsible for the music for the freaking 3 channels that were available at the time. You know what I mean? This is back in like 60s, 70s. And you look at it from a perspective of like, an orchestra has 100 pieces, right? Like close or give or take or whatever. Right. There's a conductor, and the conductor is like standing up top. He's waving the wand. He's conducting. He's, you know, keeping time. He's ordering different sections to play at different, you know, whatever levels. So like you look at a conductor, that's who the people see, right? Like if you go to a symphony, all you see is the conductor. You see the orchestra, but it's kind of like looking, you know, looking at the forest through the trees. Like, you know, you're still seeing the orchestra, but it's one. It's a complete orchestra, and the conductor's like standing opposite of that, and he's the focal point. He's the one that people go see. Oh, I gotta go see this conductor. He's performing with the Boston Pops or whatever, right? So I look at it from a perspective of like, music producer's a conductor. Like, he just goes, okay, I need a guitarist here. I need a drummer here because the loop won't work. And I need the mix to come down because I'm going to put a part that's going to be blah, blah, blah. Like, that's what a producer does, right? It's not a guy sitting there making beats. It's not the guy playing the guitar. Like, beat makers to me are musicians.
Right.
They make music. Like, I don't care if you use a sampler. That's an instrument. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, if I don't care about the whole... Like, a sound is like repeated in nature in whatever, a million different ways. So it's not like originality is like a real thing. It's like perfection. You know what I mean? So I look at like a producer as like an instrument, because look at Dr. Dre. People give Dr. Dre a bad time because Focus produces a lot of his beats, because Scott Storch produced a lot of his beats. Yeah, but like, Scott Storch produced that sound because Dre had it first, like, you know, or Dre put him onto it, or even if Scott Storch brought that in himself, Dre saw the vision that Scott Storch wasn't able to see and come together on, and he brought him in. So like, what are we talking about? You know, it's like, I think people define things differently, more for like an ego, like, oh, I'm a music producer. Yeah, but you've never been in a studio with an artist and actually made a whole, you sent somebody a beat, they went and they handled it and they sent it back.
And that doesn't make produced it.
That doesn't make you a producer, right? You know what I mean? So I have a different view of like, on that, and I thought a lot about it, and I was just like, you know, a lot of people say that, like, oh, I'm a producer, and I'm like, are you really though? Like, right. Just make beats.
Yeah, my perspective definitely changed on that, and it's changed even more so just chatting with you now. You know,
I do that. A lot. I ruined people's like so many like blueprints that got damaged because I started talking about them. People are like, oh, this doesn't make sense no more.
Well, you know, I mean, like, you see like Puffy get a production credit, and you're like, well, he doesn't make beats, or he doesn't. But at the same time, you know, we don't know what he was doing in the studio to help produce those songs, you know.
That's hater shit. We don't do that around
here. Nice, man. Well, I mean, I'm having a great time chatting it up with you, man. You know, I had a list of questions for you, and we just got lost. Man. And, you know, it's
better when it's unstructured sometimes.
It is, man. And honestly, you answered all the questions just in that conversation that we had.
Oh,
you answered like the first 3, which is great, man. I love it. But this is the point of the interview, man, where we put all that to a halt. We stop it because I like to make the guest cry a little bit. And I want you to tuck your tail, man, and because I want you to tell me a major setback or failure that you've had coming up in your musical journey. I'm sure you got a bunch to share, but if you can just share one with us, because there's some beat grinders listening that might be going through the same thing that you did, and maybe they can learn and grow from your setback.
I would say, this is like an odd one, but I have gotten progressively worse on the piano since I produced music.
Damn.
I have not, and it's funny, I was just at the folks' house earlier, and I was like kind of trying to bribe my father into giving up one of his baby grands. Unfortunately, I don't have a place for it. But here's the thing, when I used to have a piano, I used to sit on the piano and I used to play Chopin, Mozart, the big guys, right? And that kept me sharp. It kept my finger technique on point, my just overall ability to play. And ever since I got a MIDI keyboard and 2 monitors in front of me, what that does is it takes away the performance part, which I think is the performance makes you a better producer, right? If you know how to perform, you know what people want to hear, you know how it affects people, because you think you know how it affects people, but it might be your own personal ego. So actually being out there, DJs who produce their own music end up blowing up because they know both ends. They know the performance and they know the production. And I think the producers that don't DJ never really go far. And I think not necessarily go far, but I think if you're a DJ, you have more of a venue to expose yourself, expose your music, be a little bit more visible.
Right.
But really what screwed me the most was the fact that, like I said, I started working with loops. I started working with ability to replicate things instead of having to play it out. I started having, the ability to quantize things instead of having the need to actually play it right. You know what I mean? Ability to edit in a piano roll instead of just delivering the right, duration of a note, the right, velocity, things like that. I could write that stuff in.
Right.
That's cheating, right? In a sense, it's not, because it's whatever, it's a tool, whatever. But if you look at performance, that's not a performance. I hate when people do live PA, which is they'll set up speakers and they'll bring their keyboards and stuff and they'll do electronic music. And it's I hate when they just click buttons instead of actually being involved. And this is kind of on a side note.
A new school DJ.
Yeah, one of my favorite dudes these days, 2 of them. I want everybody to check these 2 guys out. You probably already know about them because they're incredible. One is Anomaly. Anomaly Beats. Dude is he's got to be some type of Rain Man, autistic something. He unreal. The production game is so ridiculous. The orchestration, the progressions, the actual composition itself, the delivery, blows my fucking mind. Every time I see it, I'm God, I hate you because you're so talented. Too talented. And then there's a dude, his name is Maxwell, which is, he spells it with all X's, MXXWLL, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. You could look him up. He's another one of those guys that's got this unbelievable talent of just writing dope shit. And so I look at that and I look at the fact that he's actually performing it and he's not just, sitting there hitting the piano roll or whatever.
Right.
It's really important. And I'll share one more. I think the worst thing that happened to me and reason that I'm starting to sell beats now as opposed to kept selling them through the last 20 years when I kind of took a nice hiatus off of it was not knowing marketing. I know we didn't really touch much on marketing yet, but not knowing marketing is the worst, or not saying not knowing it, not pursuing it.
Right.
Is the absolute worst thing that you could do as a music producer for yourself, your career. If you're not into the marketing part and if you think that shit's bullshit, or if you're I don't need to do that because my beats are hard, no. Your beats are 20% of what it takes to make it in this industry. You guys realize that, right? It's not, you're the hottest producers stay in their bedrooms. It doesn't, nobody's coming to get you. That's what it is. Nobody's saving. This isn't an island that you're all stuck on and somebody's going to rescue you. They're not. It's never, you're not Justin Bieber. And if you were, or if you are, God bless. But you're not going to be discovered on YouTube. You're not going to be discovered on SoundCloud.
Right.
You need to bring your ass out there and show everybody and be a little, not obnoxious, but kind of, get in that. If you want to do this shit, like if you really want to go out there, and you don't have to be obnoxious, but you got to go out there and you got to figure out how to market yourself, how to create content, and then you still got to organize everything, understand timing, and understand how things all go together. Right. You need like a good mentor so you need to be humble enough to take advice and take constructive criticism. Like, there's so much to this game that I've actually tripped over and fell and hit my head so many times. It was like, oh, okay. That once you realize that stuff, it really becomes like a whole different experience. And that was one of my regrets, is waiting too damn long to
pursue marketing.
Yeah. And once I started, dude, you it's completely a whole other experience. Like, music industry becomes, it's sort of like if you have fertile land that you don't know anything, you don't know how things grow, you don't know how to plant your garden per se, right? Or you don't have the right seeds, or there's something missing, right? Once you figure how to get all that, that land becomes like a godsend. It becomes damn, this is my playground. I could make shit happen here. I brought the tools, I got the right weaponry, I got the skill set, right. I'm here, and I know what to do now. It's the level of confidence is through the roof, It's as opposed to you showing up and being unprepared, which a lot of people do when they realize first impression still matters. I don't care whatever you want to think of internet, whatever, but your first impression still matters. Whatever impression you make on the customer, on the fan, on the listener, that is the impression that they have, and that's what you have to fight against. So it could be a good one or it could be a bad one, but if you're coming to the music game and you're unprepared, you don't have your ASCAP, you don't have your bank account, you don't have your fictitious name registered, you don't have your publishing company, you don't have all these things that you need to have, and you don't have them, the people that are in the industry, professionals, look at you are you fucking kidding me, dude?
Right. Like an amateur.
What do you want me to do? Sit here, wait for you to go register the company? That shit takes 3 weeks. I'm just gonna move on. Sorry.
Right. Wow.
So why go out there? People want to rush out. Oh, I'm gonna rush out there and I'm gonna make shit happen. You're not ready. Maybe stop. And it's as funny as it may sound, it's real, the real deal Holyfield. If you're not ready to go out there and embrace your customer base, who has a very finicky 5-second attention span, right? And who doesn't really give a fuck about you to begin with because you make music. I'm sorry that, you make music that doesn't make you special. So is 3 million other people. Yep. So you're not special. I'm not special. Nobody's special. When they become special is when they do the process, when they complete the entire thing. They got their business right. They got the creative right. They got their legal right. They got their mind right. You know what I mean? And the look right. Everything's right. Then shit happens. Then you can make shit happen.
Wow.
But if you don't have that ready, it's almost silly.
That's crazy, because all that stuff that you mentioned is stuff outside of the studio. And earlier you just said music 80, is only 20% of it.
80-20. Wow. Nobody cares, dude. Nobody gives a shit. Look at fucking Migos. No offense to anybody who likes rap or whatever. I'm old school. We like Premier. We like rappers. We like dudes that tell stories. Nas, right. AZ, those types of dudes, right? Now, you got these dudes like Migos. The fuck are they doing, right? But something about them, their marketing, the way that they position themselves, works.
Right.
So is it the music or is it the marketing?
Right. Yeah, it must be the marketing.
It ain't the music completely, because you could have shitty ass music that, even viral stuff that's goes viral and you're like, this is the worst song ever.
Yeah, for sure. That's what's up, man. Well, thank you for sharing 2 setbacks. Really appreciate that. I'm just gonna go back to the first one, man, and I want to say, is it safe to say that producing music made you lazy as far as wow, yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Is there anything that you're gonna do to try to change that? I mean, I know that you said you try to get your dad to give you the piano, but
yes, that's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna steal it. I'm gonna wheel it out of the house one day when they're not home.
Nice.
Probably not. No, but I mean, it's here's the thing, you realize things when you realize them, right? And it's you could beat yourself up, and I do. I'm why did I ever stop playing piano? But it is what it is. And it's I know the kind of person that I am and the connection I have to the piano. It's a 2-week, 3-week process to get everything back.
Okay.
I've done that before. I've gone years without really practicing, and then a couple weeks and your muscle memory. Yeah, it comes back, right? So, as that goes, I think it's legitimately laziness, and I'm lazy as shit. As much as I do, man, I'm lazy as all hell. And it's like I fight it every day, and that's what makes me like.
That's dope.
I fight it. You know, you got it's like all of us are lazy. Nobody wants to work. I want music to make itself, but it won't.
Yep. Well, that's cool. That's awesome, man. Like, you know, I think I said to you before we got started, you know, I talked to you about, you know, self-awareness. Then it, you know, at least you know you're lazy, and you know, but you know where you want to be, you know what type of person you want to be, and you can't be lazy to be that type of person, and you know that, and you got to fight it every day. So
right, man,
because it's easy to just sit on the couch and eat a bag of chips with your, you know, and or do whatever you do. That's something that I would probably do.
Yeah, me too. But the thing is too, but there's the flip side to that. What statement is like, if somebody's going to abuse you and take money from you, then go sit on the couch and do nothing, or do whatever for yourself. Like, you know, like, it doesn't mean that you have to do everything for money, whatever, but like, you know, if you're going to work for people, get yours. Nice. And don't be afraid to ask, because they're getting theirs. Yeah, you should always get yours. So like, you know, if you're not, go be lazy, because it doesn't make sense for you to do all that work. Exposure is the fool's game. It doesn't pay bills, so it doesn't, you know, put any commas in my bank account. So I'm not like doing it for exposure. Granted, if the right kind of exposure comes around, of course. Right. But I'm not doing it just, you know, you can't tell me like some unknown artist tells me it's going to be for exposure, and I'm just like, what exposure? Like, right. Talking about. So get your money. But can I actually hijack your show? I like to give some kind of like real value to people, so Please it's not like. It's not just like me telling stories about. I tell plenty of stories. Like, you want to hear stories, hit me up. But this is kind of like, I was thinking about like, what am I gonna really give as like value? But I feel like, and because of what I went through in some of my syncing contracts that I've signed that I wasn't really happy with, that I made mistakes. Nobody made mistakes but me. They got what they wanted. That's how contracts work. But right. I felt like I should have kept more and done more, and I didn't. So I started feeling like, how do I really gain control of my music career? Like, if I constantly put my music in the hands of other people to work, if I constantly like rely on other people to organize me and keep me like working and keep me focused, that is going to be a sure, you know, sign of failure. Like, that's not,
you're a slave.
It's not a winning. Yeah, I don't want to work for somebody and have them dictate what I need to do. Like, to me, a manager seems like when I have so much going on, I want to tell my manager what he needs to do, not have him tell me what I need to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I always like argue with people, and I even argue with my cousin, who's like a really like successful music producer, like really successful, like in a legit celebrity success type of way. He's amazing. He's ridiculous. I love him to death. His name is Jeff Gittleman. He goes by Giddy or Jay Giddy, and he works with everybody and their mother. He was working with like Kendrick Lamar and Anderson .Paak. He produced Tense, like that was his song. He produced like a bunch of big stuff. That he worked with Mac Miller. Rest in peace, Mac Miller. I love Mac. Sad as fuck when he died. Right. So, but me and him were arguing about managers, and he's like, "Well, what boxer like gets going, you know, without a manager or whatever?" But I'm like, the boxer got to have a career. Nobody wants to like.
No one wants to manage a boxer that's losing every
I don't
fight.
You get your own fights and I'll manage them. I don't want to go run out and get you fights, even though later on when you're big and famous I will, but they'll be easier then. So right. And I don't want to like get too deep in the weeds about that. What I'm trying to get at is really this: learn marketing and learn advertising, and you will control your own music career. Because think about what we go to record labels for. Like old school record labels before internet, what did we go there for? Recording music, right? We went there for the distribution, right? Because we wanted distribution channels, and then we wanted the marketing. So we wanted the advertising marketing departments to create, you know, our campaigns and then whatever. Right. So I started thinking like, you know, I've been designing graphics since 2000. I've been doing CD covers, business cards, logos, all that. Then I was like, the next logical step was website. So I figured out WordPress, and I really dug deep, and I create some pretty cool shit with WordPress.
Nice.
I don't consider myself I'm a web designer, but I don't consider myself a developer. I don't write apps. I'm not like a coder. I just, I'll take templates and whatever, and it's no secret. But anyway, so I realized that we only went to these people, to the labels, for these particular reasons, like marketing, advertising, recording. I got a full recording studio at my house I'm sitting in right now. I could do entire freaking I even got a green screen with cameras pointed at it. Right? I got knowledge how to make graphics and web. I took a course on Facebook ads, I'd say about 3 years ago. Changed my whole life. Learning Facebook ads is almost like $40 an hour, like minimum job. You know what I mean? So if you figure out Facebook ads and how to run them for people and start to really grasp the entire process, you could make some good money doing very comfortable stuff, probably off your couch.
Wow.
And so I started kind of thinking about, as I'm giving away percentages of my margin, right? Which is a margin. Obviously, people know what it is. You got your expenses and you got your profits, and then you have your margin.
Right.
And the more your expenses or the less profits you make, the less margin you have. So, when you give it away because somebody else is doing a job for you, whether it's marketing, advertising, whatever, you're giving away your margin. And I started thinking okay, if I'm going to sign a deal where somebody takes a lion's share of my royalties / any profits because I don't want to do this other work, maybe I should learn how to do the other work.
Right.
I think almost people overcomplicate this shit, and it always seems to me that people go on these expeditions because it makes them feel smart when they overthink things. And I'm if I'm going to pay people to do graphics and web, maybe I'll learn how to do that. Yes, I'll work harder, but it's going to be all me, and I'm going to get the entire kill. I'm not going to have to share my kill with the rest of the pride. Not that I'm not a team player, but I'm not a team player. And I don't necessarily giving away profits. So I started doing that. And it's unbelievable. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not a successful producer. I'm not going to lie and say that I put out hits or anything like that. That's not, none of this is about any of that. You could be a nobody and still make more money than a somebody. Right. That's how that game works. Yeah. But
especially
I just feel especially the guy that's not known is making more money than the known guys.
Yeah.
Because he was smart enough to do things differently. So anywho, I started noticing that when I released my tracks, I did a full release, and I released my beats singles just to kind of be a little extra whatever with them. But so when I put out a beat that I really like, I make it I'll do a landing page, I'll do a graphic, I'll do an animation, I'll do an ad campaign, I'll do what am I missing here? I'll do some type of maybe video stuff. If I'm selling the beat, I'll put a video together, whatever for it. And it's nobody tells me I can't do it. Right. And nobody makes me wait for anything. And then nobody makes me you could make me question, this shit sucks, dude. Okay, fine. But nobody says it sucks, I'm not releasing it, because nobody has control of it. Right. And I look at people like Nipsey Hussle, another rest in peace. All the good ones are gone. What the fuck? I look at Nipsey and I'm like that dude got it. He understood the same shit I understand, which is almost that, The Secret. It's you understand that if you control your production, if you control your work, whatever it is, you control your destiny. You control what happens. Yes, you'll have to make partnerships and work with people and give up whatever, but that's different because you're bringing so much to the table. You get to set the terms instead of having the terms set for you.
Right.
And, and that kind of becomes one of those things where a producer who's doing the graphics, the web, even if he's assigning it to his team members who are under him, that's, so my advice to anybody who's making beats, get that mind state. And don't get that, don't get complacent in that, I'm going to get a record deal or I'm going to find an artist who's going to bring me forward. They won't.
Wow.
And if they do, you're lucky. I don't like luck as a marketing strategy. I don't like to base my marketing strategy on luck. I might get lucky. It's not a strategy. That's fucking luck. That's not, to me, strategy is I'm going to do this, this and that. And then based on prior results for other people, which aren't guaranteed for me, this might happen.
Right.
And so that's kind of what I approach it as. Like, I'm going to control my fucking future, and I'm going to like do things my way. And if I'm wrong, fine, I'll eat it. Like, I'll own it. But I don't like other people being wrong with my shit. You know what I'm saying? So
that's a tough pill to swallow when you're right, but somebody they're wrong with your stuff. But if
they got
you're
money
wrong,
and you don't.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're like you said, you can eat it yourself. But I mean,
I'll deal with it.
We always hear that producers and musicians, are entrepreneurs, and
they're not. They're not, and I hate to say that. Musicians and artists make the worst business people.
Right, but at the same time, everything everything that you just mentioned, is the same thing that someone that has the entrepreneurial spirit would have.
Right, no, absolutely. But I just think that what I mean when I say like musicians and artists make the worst business people because they don't care about the business. Like they care about the music so much more. Here's the thing, like I always argue this point. People call people a sellout when they go corporate or whatever. You know what I mean? Like when
at least we used to.
Right. Oh yeah. You don't. You're a '90s producer. You made like premier beats. Don't you ever make trap? Like you're a sellout.
Right.
Really. But your dumbass goes and works a 9-to-5 job, fucking shuffling papers or doing whatever, and that's not a sellout. Like that's totally fine. You're a musician at heart, and you claim that music shit like so hard. But yet you go punch a clock, and that's okay. But if, God forbid, you went and made a beat for Mariah Carey when you're a Wu-Tang producer, you're a fucking sellout. Like, I think it's so idiotic that it's like, dude, if you could sit in the studio and make a track for Mariah or make a track for GZA or make a track for, Slick Rick, like, who gives a shit? You're still in the studio, still making music.
Yep, still being creative.
Right.
That's what it's all about.
But that's the part that people like the art of... the art of art, but they don't like the art of business. And business itself is an art. It's like fine tuning, it's all that shit's the same. It's cooking, music production, painting, business. It's all layering. It's all knowing how to, mix that salad of shit where nothing pokes out too much and nothing, everything's nicely mixed and fits together. Like that's process. Like that's what I call process. And because people don't understand process a lot of times, they neglect it and they just kind of throw things against the wall and see what sticks. It's like,
well, man,
I can't do that. So yeah, but that's what I got.
Well, thanks, man. You didn't hold anything back, but I just love the fact that you speak on the 80-20 rule, and you say it should be 20% in the studio, the rest 80% outside of the studio. I want to know, man, what do you do on a typical day? Because I mean, it sounds like a lot of what you do is based on marketing, is based on getting your beats heard and getting your beats out there, and very little in the studio. So what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, I mean, I do have a 9-to-5. I mean, we produce comedy tours and concerts at North American, so I run Facebook ads. Like that's kind of like my biggest like time spent. But learn Facebook ads, folks. Learn, because that's Instagram too. So learn that shit and figure that shit out as soon as you can, because that is where the money is. Then you don't need anybody then. So anywho, that's my day job. I'll go to work, and then like depending on, like I get home around 6, and then depending on what I feel like doing as far as my companies go, whether it's if I got clients that I do web design, graphics, things like that. But music-wise, and I've done this thing recently. Adam Ivy, I'm sure you guys either know who he is or maybe seen him or whatever, but he's had this 20 days of focus challenge, which was really cool because I'm not very structured. I'm all over the place, but it kind of mandated that you came in your studio at least for an hour, that you did social for a specific type of posts or whatever, and comments or whatever. So it kind of mandated like a challenge for you to do every day for 20 days, and I just finished it. That's and cool. It kind of keeps you kind of focused on being focused, you know what I mean? Like it's just like people lose track. We got computers, we got whatever. So I come home and I'll go up in my studio. I'll now I'm in the process of uploading a lot of my stuff to my beat store, so I'll just start mixing tracks, doing the track outs, getting them ready for for the store, for the upload. But I mean, to tell you honestly, man, like, don't do what I do. Not necessarily like don't do what I do as far as the skills, but don't ever take anybody else's like schedule. Don't ever take anybody else's process.
Right.
You can emulate it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I know what you're saying. I'm not.
And you can learn from other people. You definitely want to be yourself in everything that you do. I believe.
Always.
But but you may be doing something that can that can take us to the next level.
And I'm not saying that like don't do what I do. I'm just saying that like don't ever like feel like if you're not doing something that like somebody does that makes you less of a, like, I'm so on this positive kick lately where it's like everything that you do needs to be like super positive. But anywho, so with the actual like day, it depends. Like, what are you trying to do at the moment? Like, are you trying to, like, for me, it's like I'm relaunching my podcast, so I'm starting to re-record and edit new episodes. Then I'll sometimes revamp my website, so I'll like make a plan of what I need to change, and I just go through it and knock it all out. Nice. And when it comes to marketing, like if I have a single coming out, that needs a certain amount of work. So it needs a landing page where I need to put my Facebook pixel so I could track all my engagement. It needs a master, so I'll like send it out for mastering because I suck at mastering. I even suck at mixing. So but it's funny, a lot of my beats get placed unmixed, which is like whatever. Really? So yeah, wow. I don't know. It's weird. But because I'll send old stuff in that I didn't even used to bother mixing, and it's like they get placed. Wow. So depends on like it depends on what it is. Like like I said, for landing pages, for singles, like landing pages, then I got to do mix master, then I got to do track outs, then I got to upload different MP3s and waves and stuff. Then I got to do like descriptions for the SEO, so like the search engines could pick them up and say okay and show it to the right person. So it's like, I mean, it's but then at the top of all that, and on top of that, I like take a lot of courses too.
Okay, dope.
That's, dude, like once a course changes your life, like that Facebook ads course, like literally gave me my career that I'm at now.
I was just gonna say that sounds like one course that literally did change your life.
$1,000.
Wow.
And I was like, fuck, I don't have $1,000. And I was just like, fuck it. Went out and took a PayPal credit and, got me into that course and then figured it out.
Well worth that $1,000.
Paid for itself.
100-fold.
I can't even tell you.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many times. This is years now. So
that's fucking awesome. That's dope, man.
I just work. I don't have a social life. I'm like a weirdo. I don't really hang out with people. Like I have friends, but they never see me, and it's like they stop calling me after a while. So it's like a solitary, like hermit weirdo.
That's cool. I don't feel so weird now. That's cool.
Good. No, most us producers.
Most producers.
But
yeah, exactly.
I just work, man. I find what I do very entertaining. It's fulfilling. It's yeah. When people respond well, it's even like a bonus.
Man, well, it sounds like, you're all about educating yourself. You're all about, furthering your career through education. And, I know the beat grinders listening, they can definitely do that themselves by listening to your podcast, the music marketing podcast. But do you know of any books for music marketing that?
Oh yeah, man. So the Bible that I consider like the music business Bible, and this is not like a rare, like I'm not going to share any like super rare books. Just everybody should have known about this already, and if not, like I'm surprised. It's the All You Need to Know About the Music Business by Ronald Passman. Like if you don't know about that book, like you're missing out ginormously. But then it's like, look, the music business, like that's the book to learn from, right? Like there's other books, but it's like that's the book. You could just read it and you'll be like more than all set. Like you'll be ahead of so many people who didn't read that book. But don't spend your time learning about, like, the production game is what it is. Like you could learn it and figure it out, but spend your time learning about things like marketing, like the actual like marketing, and not just music marketing and not digital marketing, but just marketing. Like what's his name, not Sam Gooden, I can't remember his name. I'm terrible with names, but Gooding is his last name, and he's like a like an old school marketer. Then there's like advertising books about like old school direct mail marketing. Like that's the shit that like it you know what I mean? It like tickles my pickle. You know what I mean? Like it makes me like I get excited when I learn about it, because that's like foundational stuff that allows everything to grow from it. Like you understand, once you know the foundation, everything else makes sense. Like it's
wow.
So you figure out how the foundation is built, the whole house seems like, oh yeah. I figured it out. So it's like if you learn a foundation of marketing, which is really just knowing your customers, knowing how to talk to them, knowing like what kind of things they respond to, knowing their problems, like that, like it changes your music when you know this stuff.
Right.
Think about it this way. You and I make 90s rap, right? I love my little Premiere type beats. Like I love all that. But there's not a huge market for that. Maybe now there is, because lo-fi is getting huge. Yeah. But for a while it wasn't. So me and you were making all these beats that probably wouldn't have sold should we have like rather made trap beats. You know what I mean? Like more with the time. Because we didn't necessarily knew who our audience was. We didn't care.
Right.
That's what I love. I don't give a shit. I'm going to do what I do. But that's not really business. Like, that's not like you try to do that in any other business industry. Like, it's not going to work. You're not going to just make a product and just make it because
just say, I love the product.
I love it. You're not your customer. Right. You're not your own customer. So you make products for the customer. And that's what marketing teaches you. Understanding your customer, understanding it ain't about you, it's about them. Everything's about them. Nothing's about you. They don't give a shit. They don't care. You could be whatever, like they don't give a shit. It's all about them. People are self-centered. They want what they want. And so if you take that in consideration and you make a product or music or whatever it is with that in mind, like your success, like that's how you reach success, knowing how to be a problem solver to a big enough market and then doing that profitably.
Wow, man. You just, I mean, you answer so many questions that I have, man. I mean,
I hope that helps, man.
All of this helps. I just want to know though, like I had this group on here a while back called Widowmaker, and they make 90s hip hop. And they said for a while they were questioning themselves, like, why are we still doing this? No one wants to listen to this anymore. We do it because we love it. And now there's a resurgence in 90s
cycle.
Rap. Yep.
It's a cycle. Yep. It's always going to be. We listen to like, the EDM was really big last decade because it was the 80s. It's like a 20, 30 year cycle. Like it always ends up like, look at fashion. It's the same thing. Like in the 70s there were bell bottoms, and then in the 90s, 2000s there were bell bottoms. Like it just, people don't have any new shit to do. They just keep recycling old shit. It's like Nas said it. There's nothing new under the sun. It's not what it is. It's how it's done. It's like, it's not about, that's why it's funny. Like I always tell the story. When I first started doing WordPress, I met this girl, and I'm not going to like name her name, but she was like one of these like elitist web designers or web developers that do everything from scratch. Like, she was so amazing. Like, and she started, like, I came to her as like a rookie. I didn't know shit. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I'm just getting into WordPress. And she's like, WordPress? And I'm like, yeah, like, why, what's up? I'm like, what's up? I'm like, look on her face. I'm like, what's up? She's like, WordPress. That's so, that's so blah, blah. And I'm like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And she's like, you're not a real designer. And I'm like, yes, I am. I just designed a whole website. What are you talking about? Yeah. She's like, no, you're not original. I do everything from scratch. And I'm like, okay, and so, like, so what? And she's like, well, you're not original. I'm like, I don't care.
Exactly. That's just what you talked about with the music. Your customer doesn't care if you use loops or not.
At all. And it's like, it's that elitist attitude that keeps a lot of people. It's like your ego is just defending your insecurity. You know what I mean? It's like, just get over it. Like, dude, I'm not the best producer in the world. Far fucking from it. Like, I'm not, half my beats aren't mixed. They probably sound crappy. Like, some people will rip them apart and tell me all the stuff that they don't like about it. But it's like, I still get placements and they don't. So, like, what is it? Goes to show you that, like, am I a cheater then? Am I not authentic? Whatever. Call it whatever you will. I'm here to do everything in my power not to have to do anything else but music. And how that happens without me actually physically or like morally screwing people out of their money, I don't give a shit. As long as I'm not being immoral, I don't give a fuck.
Right. For sure, man. For sure. Yeah, I definitely want to adopt that attitude, man. Because a lot of times I know I do make beats for other producers, as fucked up as that sounds. I'm always thinking, you know, about, is this the right thing to do? You know, there's a whole lot of unwritten rules in music production, and you know, a lot of times I follow those rules, you know, unconsciously. And so, yeah, man.
I mean, I call that's self-imposed roadblocks. Like,
yeah, it's true.
You know, it's like nobody tells you these things, and nobody really forces you to do it, but you do it because you don't know how like your peers are gonna perceive you as, because you think that everybody else is goddamn Captain America, like everybody's by the book, everybody makes all their beats from scratch. You know, it's like thinking like every carpenter is gonna go into the woods, cut their own trees down, you know, like mill them, make wood, and then get mud and clay out of the earth and then make their own bricks. Like, no, they're gonna go and they're gonna fucking buy the wood at the lumber yard and the bricks at Home Depot. Like, it's not like, get over your own insecurity of being like all original, because you know what? Like, when you're using that sample that's on your keyboard, how the fuck is that any different than if you're using a sample that you buy from Splice?
Right. That's true.
And who gives a shit? Like, you know it, and 13 other people you're friends with know that sample, and then not a single fan will tell you, oh, that's just from Splice, from such and such a loop pack. Right. How the fuck have that ever happened? Right. So that's, you know, it's like, to me, it's like this. I was taught by my when I used to sell cars, I was taught by my boss. He said, look, as long as you don't hurt anybody, as long as you don't like, you know, like actually hurt anybody financially or whatever, nobody cares how you do it. Just get it done. Just like, it's all about, the journey is great. Like, praise the journey and enjoy it and suck it all in, but get to the ending, like get to the finish line and cross it off your list and go on to the next thing. Cause it's like, the journey doesn't ever pay. It's the finished product. So if you're going to enjoy the journey so much, you're never going to get to the end. Oh, this beat's not done. It's done. Put it out. And if it sucks, re-release it. Like, you know, so it's more about, to me, it's more about execution and getting it completed. Ideas are great. They're important. They're necessary, but no idea works without execution or like a good plan. It just, you could be the talented person in the room, as long as you don't work hard and get it all, you know, executed correctly. It doesn't matter how talented you are.
For sure.
I'm sorry.
For sure. What do you think are some of the best ways that music producers can market themselves online?
Well, so here's the thing. Like I was always saying, none of this shit's about you, right? Like, me as a producer, nothing I do, short of like the benefit I draw out of it, you know what I mean? But nothing I do is for my liking. You know what I mean? It's nothing that I have to necessarily be a fan of or whatever. Even though I love what I do, like I could make beats that I don't necessarily care for if I'm getting paid to do it. I could mix records that I hate because I'm getting paid to do it.
Right.
I could work with artists I don't care for because I'm getting paid to do it. But while that's happening, I'm not working another job doing not music. So like, you gotta kind of weigh that out. So I think as far as like, you know, what artists could do is give value to people in a real meaningful way, where it's, you know, actual like when you know your audience and you know what your audience needs and you deliver that to them, you get loyal audience. Like you get, because once people have their guy, they're not gonna go looking for another guy, because it's a process. It takes a while to figure out who's who. It's a risk, a gamble. Once they know you're the guy to do it. So as a producer, what I would do is, knowing that your audience is rappers or singers or songwriters, there's not really much else after that. Record labels and music supervisors too. Like, that's your audience. Rappers, singers, songwriters, labels, and music supervisors for TV, film, video game. right? Or whatever, any kind of music supervisor who's like buying music.
Not just consumers of music, but actually like, artists or people that. Right. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You're not like, your audience isn't even consumers, unless you're publishing your own music, like I am. So my audience is, but like I'm still publishing to get attention of artists and rappers, and not so much about the end user. Like I don't care if like some guy who likes my beats listens to my beats. Like I care more about the guy who makes a song out of my beats, because that's what I'm trying to do at the moment. So you're, as a producer, your audience is singer, songwriter, rapper, label, and music supervisor. That's the people you really need to impress. That's the people you really need to understand who they are, make them like a fake profile. So it's like, oh, you know, this guy's name's John and he lives in LA and he works for Universal and he's between ages 25 and 45, and you know, he's music college educated, and you make these avatars, you make these like customer checklist worksheets, whatever you want to call them, and then you basically look at it and you say to yourself, okay, so I kind of know who I'm like aiming at, right? And if it's a guy, you know, maybe he's white, maybe he's black, who knows, maybe he's, you know, educated in music, maybe he's just a pencil pusher, but like you need to understand that, because then you'll know what type of message to put out there. You'll know what they respond to. Because think about it this way: if you work at a store and a grandma walks in, you're not going to be like, "Hey, yo, what up, grandma?" Like, you're not going to talk to her like that. You're like, "Hi, how are you?" Your voice will go up 4 octaves for no reason. "Oh, how are you?" Like, but if a teenager walks in, you're going to be like, "What's up, my man? How you doing? Like, what can I help you with?" Like, so it's like you change your tactic and you change your messaging based on who you're talking to. And if you don't know who you're talking to, then this shit all sounds wacky, because it's then you're just one message shotgun blasting everything, and everybody's like, who sees it doesn't identify it as like, he's talking to me. You know, marketing only works if the person that is receptive of it knows you're talking to them. If they don't know you're talking to them, they don't receive like message, right? So like I was saying before, Facebook ads, like second to none. Like, I don't care about Snapchat. I don't care about even Twitter. I care about Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook for hours every day. And I don't care if people say, oh, I'm not on Facebook anymore. Bitch, shut the fuck up. You're on Facebook. Like, you know you're on Facebook. Like, whatever. You might not be posting, but you get the messages. Right. And because they know so much about, like I always say that, like Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and all those, they're not social media platforms. Like, let's get over that quickly, because people still think that like, oh, it's social media, I'm here to like, you know, I put stuff on my personal profile and it doesn't get any reach. What the fuck, Facebook? And it's like, dude, it's not what they do. They're not here so you could talk about your music for free. They're here to make money off their advertising. And if you're putting up marketing shit on your personal profile, like, stop using your personal profile as your main business page. That's the dumbest thing you could do. Wow. And I could explain why if you would like.
Why?
Okay. So Facebook personal page has zero to do with tracking. So you have no ability to create any kind of tracking and understand who comes, who goes, who does what on your personal page, because it's not what it's for. Right. Your personal page is to connect with people, to be a human being. Right. Your business page, right, like most people do, but people abuse that because they get so comfortable talking in chats and da-da-da, so this marketing starts coming out, and then you start seeing the messages, oh, you know, when I put a meme up, people like my meme, but when I put a song up, nobody wants to hear my song. It's like, no, asshole. Facebook is not letting anybody see that. It's not that the people don't care. They just not seeing it because it doesn't belong there. Right. Marketing. And marketing is not, they don't like direct marketing. They like inbound marketing. And direct marketing is when you go, here's my beats, listen to them now. Right. All on your timeline. Right? As opposed to like, here's like a, here's a track I did, whatever, like, you know, last week, and nice little video. It's on your own timeline, you know, and people like that mess with you will go on your timeline and see it. Here's the opposite side of Facebook personal. The Facebook personal profile is for your like chatting with family, friends, whatever, connecting. Right. It only allows you to see like maybe 30 to 40 people if you're that like active, but usually like 8 to 10. So, you know, you might get engagement if other people find it useful, but usually it's like a small engagement. Right. Your business profile, though, that's where the magic is, right? The back end of Facebook, like all the ad stuff, right? Which is like the Facebook Pixel. That's where you could actually set it up and get it you guys know what a Facebook pixel is. It's like a tracking code that Facebook uses to attach to your browser, and then it follows people around the internet, records data, submits it to Facebook. Amazing tool. Super intrusive, fucking priceless.
Yeah, it is.
And then, so the business end of Facebook really is about tracking. Like, you have to track who came to your page, what they did, where they clicked, where they went, what link they hit, whether that link is in the right place, whether that link is, correct for what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? You get that data in the background of Facebook, like in the back end of Facebook, like that, the ads manager.
That's dope.
And it tells you, like, so, it tells you what it tells you about what's happening on your digital domains, on your Facebook, Instagram account, so on and so forth. Here's the magic is, if you use your Facebook page like you would use your personal page, what ends up now happening is that data starts to accumulate, and you're able to say, okay, I want to put on an ad, because the ad is the right way to market. Like, the ad and platform knows people, knows what they do when they are on and they're receptive. You don't know this shit. So whenever you post is usually wrong. Whenever Facebook posts, it's when people are more receptive to take that message. Because you can't don't knock on my bathroom door telling me you want to sell me gum. Like I'm not receptive then. Like, I don't want to, but if I'm chewing,
really when I want gum.
Right. If I'm chewing food and I'm done and you're like, piece of gum, of course. Absolutely. Thank you. It's a different experience. So, like, Facebook allows you to collect this data, and then like I said, on the back end, what allows you to do, you run an ad that goes something like this. Like, I'm not going to get into the copy, but just the targeting. It goes into like, okay, I want to target people who've been to my homepage, added my beat to the add to cart, and didn't check out.
Damn.
Right. So then Facebook only finds the people who've been to my page, who listened to a beat, who added it to a cart, and then didn't buy.
You can go that direct?
What? Bro,
wow.
We spent some time. You want to have me back on, I'll do a whole 3-hour set about Facebook. So you can get super in depth. And this is all a matter of like where you place that pixel. It allows you to do all this stuff. So you could then, instead of, like, imagine this. As a regular advertiser back in the day, not having anybody to really target, you would do something like, oh, we have this product in store, but it's $19.99, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
It was just kind of a shotgun approach. Boom, you hit the market with it, and whoever picks it up, great. It's what I call hunting, right? You go hunting for your customers, right? I go fishing. I put a bait out there, and I say to myself, like, who's going to bite this bait? Whether it's, if it's a free beat for a rapper, if it's a dope video that I did for a beat that I, produced that people are enjoying or whatever. And so that becomes my bait. So I that pulls a lot of people into my funnel, right? And as that funnel like thins out towards the bottom, I'm weeding out. It's like filters. I'm weeding out the wrong people. I'm constantly taking people out of my funnel to stop paying for them. Impressions mean you're going to be placing an ad on somebody's timeline. They don't have to see it. That ad was placed. Right. And if they're not the right person, you're paying for the wrong person to see your ad. So spend less, make more. That's kind of like the whole objective of marketing. Spend less, get more, but you spend less when you know your customers. So Facebook Pixel lets you do, it says, okay, I want to target specifically the people who been to my homepage and maybe didn't add to cart, because that tells you there's something wrong. Like, why didn't they add to cart? Right. Think about that. Why would somebody go to your page and not add anything to cart?
Right. They obviously came there for a reason. But yeah, if they didn't buy anything.
Why? Right. And you could look at it. It could be a technical issue. It could be your store screwed up. Your gateway isn't working. So it like this is the age of data science. Like, I don't give a fuck what you do for a living, as far as like, you got to be in the marketing. If you like shovel shit or whatever, you don't care about that. But if you're in the business world, data science is everything. And if the more data you have, like, I get why Facebook wants to get all this data from you, because it helps them sell shit to people. And when they, when people place ads on Facebook, because they know that Facebook knows people, they make money. So I utilize their knowledge and their databases. I pay them for access, and I use that information to correctly target the right people. So when I want to sell my beats, I don't, like, I post it like everybody else, like the homies see it, whatever, people give me props or whatever. Right. But when I really want to sell my beats, I run an ad, which I'm doing right now. I have like a bunch of ads running right now that drive people using my beat videos, right? I create a beat video, It's got the little like visualizer in it. Nothing original. I don't give a shit. That's not what we're doing here.
Right.
I create the video. I put it. I set up my targeting. I say, I want people who are singer, songwriter, whatever, who are narrowed down by ASCAP, BMI, because you want somebody who's professional, has publishing, like PROs.
Right.
Then I narrow down further by like CD Baby, TuneCore. So it's like they have publishing, but now they're also delivering music to the market, right? So they have that in their interest, like, profile. And then I'll say, like, if my beat is, let's say, West Coast, then I'll target people who like, Snoop, Dr. Dre, and Death Row. And that'll eliminate everybody who doesn't fit into that category. And once it's sniper versus shotgun. Then once I figure that out and I run those ads and I get enough of an audience going, right, where it says, okay, like this is the audience, then I use that as a custom audience. And here's where the money really is. The money is in the lookalikes.
What do you mean by that?
Okay, so Facebook lets you create audiences based on your custom audience. So if you create an audience by placing your pixel on your homepage, you create an audience of people who visited your homepage, right?
Right.
Then they start to check out and buy the beats. So now you create an audience of purchasers. You could then take that purchaser audience, right? And what Facebook is really great at, because they have the data, what they're great at is if you're giving them really distinct data, like, okay, these people bought my beats. They're all buyers. Find me more people like that.
Nice.
Facebook will go and they use big sample like of national audience of like 2 million people, and out of that audience they find people that share the same characteristics and the same aspects that like your buyers do.
Right.
So then you stop bullshitting with like the detail targeting where you're like, oh, ASCAP, BMI. No, you just have people who bought my shit. I want Facebook to go and find more people just like those that. People.
Right.
And that's where we make in North American. Until we started using lookalikes, we were doing chump change. I made $1.2 million off 140 grand.
Wait, say that again?
$1.2 million, well, almost $1.3 million, I would say, off 140 grand of advertising. And not like we spent it all at once.
Right.
We just kept spending small, spending, making. Just the margin was huge.
Jeez.
So it was able to like make a lot of money. And we sell concert tickets to famous people. It's not like I'm not claiming to be this like Facebook god, but like we figured that out.
Still, I mean,
that's a lot. It's 10 times return almost.
Yeah.
Like if you don't fucking like 10 times return, like my boss was happy, even though he was like, you spent too much money, but I'm like, but I made you a ton of money.
You're right.
It's like, you're right. So it's kind of like, yeah, and so Facebook works. Yeah. And the reason that it doesn't work for you or anybody else is because of you or somebody else. It's not Facebook. It works. Like,
just not using it the right way.
They don't have a process. They don't understand what the actual, it's not even the tool itself. That's easy. You'll figure that shit out in an afternoon. Like,
right.
It's knowing how to link everything together to make it cohesive and make it, you know what I'm saying? Right. So it makes sense. Like you could actually like I use this tool called Funnelytics, and it creates a mind map or like a organizational chart of how my process works. Whether it's, okay, I get my traffic from Facebook, Instagram, whatever, like that's the top. And then it goes, okay, what happens next? Okay, they click on the ad. Okay, what happens then? They go to the landing page. Okay, what happens then? They view the content. They might hit the call to action button. That takes them to the next page. So it's like, you got to understand that process, because at one point you could say, oh shit, I see where they drop out.
Right. Nice.
They fall dope. Out. And it's, if you don't have that on paper, you'll never know that. You'll be like, oh shit, I'm losing customers. Why am I losing customers? You don't know.
Step. Right.
And if you have that on paper, like then you could, dude, I like the biggest thing I teach now that I've been like doing this for a while is get that shit out of your fucking head and put it on paper. And until it's on paper, I don't want to fucking even hear about it. Like I want you to show me your process, not tell me.
Right. Damn.
Because it sounds good in your head. Like, oh yeah, duh, I'm just gonna sell beats. It's like, yeah, but how?
Right.
And I'm not with all that like that flimsy, like I'm like tough love kind of guy. Like I'm not with that like, oh, everything's gonna be all right. No, it won't. You'll fail. Show me how you're not failing. Like show me where you hop over that failure and you keep moving. Like, And so That's the beauty of Facebook. And since Facebook owns Instagram, now I always tell people never do same campaign in Instagram and Facebook because it won't work. Right. Because people don't respond to Facebook like shit on Instagram, and people on Facebook don't like posts without links, and because you need
people
click out.
You need the platforms for two different things too.
Right, and you can't create the same message for two different platforms, but you could do it in the same tool. Like you could do an ads, you could do a campaign, whatever, and under it you could have like one campaign could be like a song, right? Like I'm going to promote this song, name that campaign, whatever, blah 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 song. The ad set, which is the targeting, where the targeting lives, that could be like Facebook. And the next ad set in the same campaign, two different ad sets, one could be Instagram. And so you create an ad or a series of ads under that ad set for Instagram, and then a series of ads for Facebook with links, with
that's dope.
Whatever, you know what I mean? And it's like, you gotta have intent. Like you gotta have intention when you're behind all this. Otherwise, you're just like, that's why Facebook doesn't work for people, because they're like, oh, I just boosted this post and it didn't work.
Right.
I would have, like, tell me why it should have worked is a different question. What about that makes you want to buy that beat because you boosted it? Like, that's not
right.
It's like a blank check to Facebook when you do that, when you boost post and you don't you let Facebook decide on the audience or something. Like,
right.
Dude, it's like that's how people basically like it. I almost liken that to like being a tourist, like when you go to a foreign land and like all the vendors just like take advantage of you because you have no idea what you're doing. And you're just like, you're like, oh, I want to buy this little trinket, and he's like, oh, $200, and you're like, that
okay,
that sounds way off, but all right, like,
but I'll do it anyway. Right.
I'll do it anyway because I don't know anything. Like, so when you come prepared, like that's why people say, oh, Facebook doesn't work. Like, well, I just made $1.2 million off $100,000. Like, sure does work for me.
Right. Right.
We had calls with Facebook. We had strategy meetings and shit. Like,
wow, man. So
what's a strategy?
What's a decent amount of money for someone like myself or another producer to
$5-10 a day.
$5-10 a day. That's it.
That's
that'll get us a good reach on our clientele that we're trying to reach.
I mean, like, you could probably reach 1,000 people for about $7 to $10.
Okay. Wow.
And I mean, you're not gonna reach them all in the same.
That's the same amount as like a lunch or a
weed or
a beer.
Alcohol.
Yeah, weed. Yeah, exactly.
Like, maybe not spend money on weed this week and run some ads.
Dope.
Like, figure it out. But it's like, people think it's like it takes hundreds of whatever. Like, we spent $140,000 because like we're selling concert tickets. Like I could make like a $12 ad spend into like $130 or more. I could keep it at like 10 times return. So like, it's different for, like beats, especially. Like, what if you could sell a beat and spend $1 to sell a $20 beat? You wouldn't do that all day, every day?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Like, and that's what people don't understand, that it's like, you're supposed to spend as little as possible and get the most money out of it, so employ the right technique and the right strategy, and you could do that. And once you get it, once you put the strategy in play, then the $5-10 that you're spending on it, you start going like, damn, I'm not spending enough. And it's not because you feel like there's a right number to spend, it's because you're not like taking in all the money that you're leaving on the table.
Right. Yeah.
Because our campaigns that are killing it, we'll put more money on them and stretch them out. Like, I'll do like a week, and then I was like, damn, this is fucking 10 times return. Put, another $400 on that, and then have that turn into $6,000 or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Like, wow. Well, I'm excited. Beat Grinders, I hope you guys are excited as well. Yeah, man, I'm definitely going to tune into your podcast a lot more. Beat Grinders, you guys do the same. I mean, you guys know Beat Grinds in Life, listen to it, but definitely listen to Music Marketing Podcast as well, so that you can get more content like this from Brennan. I mean, damn, man, you got me excited and ready to start Facebook marketing immediately, man. So
lose money, and it's like a lot of marketers, what they don't like share with people is that they always allocate 20% of their, the smart ones, they always allocate 20% of their overall ad spend to just losses, like to just try to lose it.
Right.
You know, because that's when you do your tests. Like that's when you're not trying to lose it. Like I'm just saying that. Like, but that's like you're okay with losing that money. It's like when you go to the casino and you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna lose $100. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna have fun. That's the same thing. It's like I'm gonna do the test. I'm gonna run it, and I don't give a fuck if I lose it, because if it wins, I'm gonna get paid.
Right.
You know, so it's the educated gamble in the sense, but always know you're gonna lose money on advertising because that's just how it is. But that one winner is gonna turn around and pay for all the losses and some.
Right.
So know that's what people don't understand is you're mostly gonna have failed shitty campaigns.
Dope, man.
I do.
Yeah, you gotta you gotta try new stuff, you know, and you gotta try to figure out what's gonna work for you, and you definitely gotta have money allocated for that. So
make sure you do. I mean, it's like I say, it's not even that much money, so I don't want people to think that you need to be like a millionaire or have like a legitimate, like, you know, profitable company. You don't.
Right.
$5 a day will get you over the hump, and then as you start growing, just don't fucking spend your money on dumb shit. Put it back in the ads. And then it's like compound interest type shit where it's like the more you start spending, the more you make. It's the same thing in like, I learned it's the same thing for sync licensing too. It's about having as many tracks in those libraries as you fucking can, because the more tracks you have, the more points of play you have in the game. You know, it's like more things start to kind of bubble up. Same thing with ads. Like the more, it's all like I call it fishing, because it's like, think about putting a fishing rod in the water and just putting 8 more in the water.
Right.
You know, better chances of catching shit.
So, I think this is, you know, I don't want to hold you up too long.
I'll stay as long as you feel like staying, bro. Hey, I like these things.
That's what's up right there, man. Well, I want to know, how many campaigns do you usually do a month? I mean, like for your...
I did...
And I'm not talking about for work. I'm talking about personally. For you, for your music.
Here's the cold, honest truth. I haven't even ran campaigns for myself up until like recently. Not that like I don't.
Just because you just now started selling beats?
Right. Because like I wasn't marketing myself to like the public. I was more of like industry. Like I knew people who did licensing. I already had an in-place licensing thing that I could just submit to. When I decided to walk away from, well, not walk away, but not relying on that completely and doing my own, I would say like, I mean, again, what are you trying to do? Well, how many beats do you have? Every beat is a campaign, right? I usually put $20 to start because I can make $20. So if I lose $20, it's not worth it, you know. And I might restructure my campaign, but I'll probably do like, to give you an idea of campaigns and how they would work for me, would be like objectives, right? So I would do a video view objective, right? So it'll be one campaign for that beat. This is one beat. Okay. So video view campaign. I will do an engagement campaign of some sort where it's either like people are engaged to my post, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people to click like, share, or comment, because that right there tells me different levels of interest for people. But you know, if they care about my stuff a lot, it's a share. If they care about it kind of, it's a comment. If they're kind of just like, this is cool, it's a like. So I tailor my marketing based on that. You know what I mean? Based on how people respond. It's not about the likes. It's not about shares or comments. I don't give a shit about any of that. I care about the numbers and what they tell me as far as a pattern. And then, you know, so I'll do like, again, video view, some kind of an engagement. And usually like, you know, there's a conversion, which is like looking for buyers or people looking for people to convert. So if I'm running like a giveaway, my conversion objective is to get people to sign up. That's a conversion. If I'm selling the beat, my conversion objective is to sell. So it's looking for buyers. And then I'll do lookalikes of all three. So it's 6 campaigns usually per beat. And so you'll probably spend like, you know, $100 on that set of campaigns. But like, how many sales can that possibly get you? You know, if I spend $100, I could probably reach like 100,000 people.
Wow.
And maybe it's the same people over and over again. Yeah, but it's the same thing over and over again. It might be like people reached 4 different reasons. Like first you'll see the video, then I'll ask you to engage, then I'll ask you to buy. I can't ask you that to get on the get going, because it's like, think about any kind of a sales, like things that you've done as far as like I don't know if you ever sold anything in your life. Like I've sold cars, right? And that's the hardest thing I think to sell, short of houses, because they're so expensive, right? So I had to get to know my customers, have them like me, have them like my company, and then I could sell them a car.
Right.
Because if they don't like you, if they don't like you, they don't like your company, you ain't selling them shit. It doesn't matter what deal you have. None of that shit matters. It's all about you. And it's like that for any kind of retail transaction, like selling beats. They got to like you, and they got to like your company. They got to believe that you're going to be around, right? There's got to be a name involved. That's how you get your value up. And so I learned that, like, it's the retail politics of it, you know what I'm saying, where, people like me, and so, they can't be just this from like first impression to sale. It never works. You can't ask somebody on the first time they meet you to buy something from you.
Right.
Because that's like Riff Raff says, middle of the mall shit. Like when you walk in the mall and they're like, hey, my friend, I got the helicopter. And you're like, dude, I don't give a fuck about helicopter.
You're fucking annoying me right now. Get away from me.
That's the same thing as like, yo, I got trap beats. And you're on Instagram, you're like, I'm a fucking producer. What are you sending me this shit for?
Right.
Fucking annoying. And it's like annoying. It's interrupting me. Like I'm in the middle of something. I see a thing come up. Of course, I'm going to click it. Now I'm interrupted. And now you're sending me a stupid beat that I don't even care about. Right. And I don't even like that style of music really. So it's like, and so like that's what it is to me as far as like, you reach a lot more people letting Facebook do what it does best. Spend the fucking money. Stop being a cheap ass. Spend the money. Be smart. Have a plan. Work with somebody who knows what they're doing. I do consultations on this shit. People sit down with me for 3 hours. I'll take over their screen. They pay me, and I will take over their screen and build a campaign for you and basically go over the shit I just did, but like that's for dope. You.
That's dope.
And then you could replicate that campaign over and over again. You could run it either as many times as you want. You could do it for different things. You could use it for for different projects or whatever. It's like you understand like the basis of like the foundation of it, and that's once you know how to do that, and Facebook knows people better than you do.
Yep.
They'll show your ad to the right person. That's really what it is. And you pay for that, but like here's the thing, the best thing I ever learned in marketing, and take this home with you and take the notes or whatever, but it's really important to know. It's basically goes like this. It goes, if you can outspend your competition on marketing while still remaining profitable, that's how you win.
Wow. That's dope, man. I've never really thought about that.
Yep. Outspend your competition, still be profitable. Don't blow your whole budget. Still be profitable. Outspend them. Because it's an auction. If the guy with the biggest money wins. If you have the biggest money, you're going to be able to dictate price, cost, like all that. Right. So, if you have the biggest money at the auction, you're going to win. And if you could do that and still make money on the product or whatever it is, then give me the downside here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
wow. Man, that's a gem right there. I mean, you're full of them.
When I learned that shit, I'm passing this shit because somebody taught it to me. I didn't make this shit up. I'm not. Like, I always feel like guilty when people are like, oh, you're like mad smart. And I'm like, dude, I just learned it. Like, I just sat down and fucking read books and like took the time. I guess, maybe I'm like, I have a more thicker ass than anybody. You know what I mean? Like, who knows? But like that's what it's. I didn't make this shit up. This isn't mine. I don't want to. I don't want to claim any of it. I just learned it from. Go work for millionaires and as close to them as you can.
Nice.
That's a gem. Yeah. Because I used to work for a guy. His name is Bob Thomas. He sells Fords in Hamden, Connecticut. He's one of the most fucking like influential people in my life that I've like ever had the pleasure of working. And then it was like not really a pleasure for working there, but just being around him. He used to get this. He had friends who had Ford dealerships in other parts. Like he had 5 dealerships, but he had other friends that all had Ford dealerships, and they all had houses on Nantucket Island off the coast of Massachusetts or off the coast of Rhode Island, or Massachusetts. My geography's fucked up. But anyway, so they used to wager their Shelby Cobras, authentic Shelby Cobras, $1.2 million car, on a private jet flight from the island to Tweed Airport in New Haven, which is like maybe like an hour flight, maybe like an hour and a half. And I don't know how fast private jets go, but that's what they used to wager their their $1.2 million cars. Now, granted, they all used to trade and shit. Like, you have a car for a while and trade your friend, and he has it for a while, and it's like, but they would make that a wager.
Wow.
Like, what? Like, you used to wager like $1 million cars on plane rides?
That's
on
crazy.
Private jet rides of your plane? Like, I want to hang out with you. Like,
exactly.
I want to go hang out with rappers and shit for like, I said, fuck my whole head up. I was like, damn, like, people live like this? Yeah, I guess. Oh shit! Like,
wow.
Oh, all right.
Change your perspective. I mean,
you're like, what the fuck am I doing?
It's like taking the cover off of your eyes. God
it's like
damn.
Matrix. You like wake up in the Matrix, but it's like better. The Matrix is better than the real world. You're like, oh, this is way dope out here. Like,
yeah.
And that's why I live in Branford, Connecticut. This is like kind of a ritzy, like old money place. It's a shoreline. But that's who you want to be around. Like, I don't want to be around homeless people and shit. Like, as cool as it is to live in the city, like, I want to be around the rich people. Like, I want to figure out what they figured out. Like,
you are your surroundings.
Rub that shit off. Yeah, like, throw me a little couple of bones. Let me know what the fuck. And they'll be happy to do it, because real rich people, they don't try to hold you back. They're not. Like, some people talk about the 1%, like, oh, the 1%. Yeah, I'm sure there's, like, assholes that, like, run the world. But, like, normal rich people that just made their money, whatever, they love fucking sharing that shit. They love sharing all sorts of information.
Right.
Find yourself rich friends, man.
That's awesome, man. That's a great gem I think to leave off on, man. I mean, you man, this interview has just been packed with them from beginning to end. Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
I like giving value, man.
Yeah, and you definitely did. Well, I'm just going to ask one last question, man, and I want to know. I mean, actually, this is probably not even worth asking, because you give so much great advice. I was going to ask, what's the greatest piece of advice that you've received from someone else? And what last piece of advice would you give to all the producers listening today?
So the guy, Bob Thomas, I was just talking about, I would say one of the best advices that he gave is he kind of taught me the whole like idea of not making business about you and knowing your customer and like really understanding, because like to sell cars, you have to know what the person is. Like, you have to know if he's a single woman, a mother, she got 4 kids, so she can't afford a big car, but she needs, so it's like the more information you take in from these people by talking to them and making it about them. And, people love, like, I love to listen to myself speak, and I talk a lot. Like, I fucking, it's just, it's a flaw of mine, but it works for some things and not others. But like, people love to hear themselves talk. So if you keep asking people questions without being too like weird about it, like, oh, where do you live? And you have to find ways of like asking it, be a little artsy about it. Like, oh, so like, do you carpool with all your kids? Oh, no, I only have 1 child. Oh, okay. Like,
right.
You like ask these weird questions and people answer them, and you're like, oh, instead of saying, where do you work? Like, oh, how far is your commute? They're like, oh, I work at home. It's like people will tell you shit. You just gotta have
a different approach, right, and make them feel comfortable about telling you.
And that's what he taught me. He was like, learn your customers, and then you won't have to worry about what marketing, what like message, what any of that. Like, you'll know everything as soon as you learn who your audience is. And for people like producers who like say, well, I don't know who my audience is. The fuck you don't, man. Like, you should, and if you don't, like, I'm kind of disappointed. Not like, whatever, my opinion matters, but like it's your audience is rapper, singer, songwriter, and then music supervisor and record labels, or like managers. Let's just call it what it is: a manager or anybody that's like maybe the artist themselves, but that's your audience. It's not like people on your personal timeline who tell you your beats are dope, or other producers. It's cool to be in the community and share your music in the community, but that shouldn't be like you shouldn't share music in the community and be like, I'm done. Right. Because it'll never go anywhere. So
nice. I love it.
Man, I'm glad to help, man. I'm glad to be here. And like I said, I don't do everything for free. I appreciate that deeply. And I don't do everything for free. So like, don't get mad if you hit me up and like, I'm like, oh, it costs money, because it does. Like, I work for a living, I have a job. This is a business of mine. And you as a producer out there listening should never feel like you should have to do free work to work, and you should never fucking pay for work that you do. Like all that like pay to play with the fucking promoters that are like charging these artists to perform. Like I get it, if it's a big tour, okay, but like, come on, bro, like don't do that to yourself. Like it makes you feel like shit. It makes you feel like a hooker. Like that's selling out. When you do all the work for somebody else and not get paid, you sold out.
Wow. Well, thank you, man. Beat Grinders, you guys definitely go check out Brennan. Go check out his podcast and hit him up. Hit him up for advice. Hit him up and don't be afraid to pay him.
Don't be afraid to pay me for sure.
Yeah,
it's gonna go to all the good causes like my bills and cable and my lights.
But I
all
mean,
good causes.
You guys see what this guy can do for you. You see what he's done for free for us. Imagine what else he can do. So that's dope. He's got me fired up, pumped up. So
it's Ecue Productions, ECUEProductions.com. I have also like a couple of like subdomains like BeatStore at EcueProductions.com, and I'm also working for anybody that's really wanting to learn about Facebook ads, especially how it applies to like the music world. I have a course. It's like a digital video course on Facebook. If you guys want to check that out, I have some free trainings you guys could check out. If you go to webinars at EcueProductions.com, there's like a free training on targeting that's like hour long or whatever. You could listen to me bitch for an hour. But if you guys want to get into like in depth, and I cover a lot of stuff, like not just ads, I also cover like landing pages and how to build landing pages, what tools to use. I just actually put out like 138 app, tool, and website resource guides on my website. You can check that out. You can see like all the stuff that I use to do my business, like all free guide. You just gotta I think give me your email and I'll send it to you. But yeah, Ecue Productions, ECUEProductions.com. And man, I got forms. Hit me up. You can even call me if you want, right off my Instagram page. It's all Ecue Productions with S on the end. Find me on social, hit me up. Just don't spam me. I'll fucking block you.
For sure.
And I'll make you I'll fucking screenshot your messages and then make fun of you on my timeline. So, but you won't see it.
Yeah, you won't see it, but everybody else will. And they'll avoid you too. So.
No, they won't. Usually, people do it so often. It's like I feel like there's like such a big population who do it, who just need to learn. It's not the wave. Right. It is not the wave. It's intruding. It's.
They'll learn eventually, hopefully.
Well, we hope.
Yeah.
Here's to hoping, So, hey, man, I really appreciate it, bro. Yeah, listen, anytime, like I said, I always learn. I always come up with new things. If you want to have me back, I would love to be back. I love your vibe. I love, what this thing stands for. And this is, one word off of, one of my favorite albums, Beats, Rhyme, Life, so I appreciate that. Yeah, man. Well, glad to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you, man. Thank you for coming on. Beat Grinders, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Beats, Grind, and Life. If you found this show of any value, which I'm sure you did. I know you did. Please share this on...
damn it. Find it.
Please
valuable, please.
Share it on Instagram. Share it on Insta Stories. Hit Brennan up. Let him know how much he gave to you guys, what value he gave to you.
Tag me, bro.
Tag him. Please be sure to rate and review this podcast on iTunes. And just share it with everyone. Let everyone know what Brennan did for you guys. And this week you have been mentored by another dope producer. You've been mentored by Brennan Lunin. So consider yourselves lucky. Continue making beats. Stay on your grind. Live life. Peace.
Here at Beats, Grind, and Life, we want to thank you for listening to another episode. We want to know, what were your biggest takeaways from this interview? Just go to beatsgrindandlife.com and leave a comment on this episode's show notes page. Also, while you are there, go subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Just click the little button that says subscribe. If you could, please leave a rating and review. Rating and reviews are the best way to show your appreciation because it helps more people find out about the podcast. So until next week's episode, keep grinding.